Okay, so to do this, grab your best electrical screwdriver, or one that's already plugged, and start stabbing. So let's have a look. Nice. So to remove this outer skin, what I'm going to do is just get my angle grinder and grind off this edge just here. Just creeping up on it. It's beautiful, it's like art. The point where you hope you've got it all marked up well. Creep up on it, just keep chasing until you find something decent. G'day guys, welcome back. I'm Todd, this is Toxic Garage Customs, and you are in Toxic Garage Customs spray booth. And you'll see behind me, got the doors painted, and I made a thing to hang stuff from. So in this video, there's a little bit about that, my coat hanger system, and also painted my floor. Didn't mean to do that, but hey. So, why don't you go and grab yourself a coffee, a brewski, orange whip, whatever it is that you want to drink, and maybe even get a meat pie. Sit down, check out what I've done, how I did it, why I did it, and critique me at the end. But I'll see you at the end, so put your feet up, enjoy. Yet another beautiful day. I've got the doors hung here so that I can get some epoxy onto them. I don't need to do everything about the doors in epoxy, so I've just got the parts exposed that I'm going to be doing. So bare metal basically, or over the top of body filler in this case, and some bare metal, and bare metal on the door that you've seen me do all the repairs on. And then the cowl, so I'll do these spots under here and then I'll flip it over. Everything's been cleaned with both glass cleaner and wax and grease remover, and I think it's about as good as it's going to get. I've got it suspended from my hoist, which is nice. Unfortunately I can't get it up any higher, so it would be good to get it up higher, but it is what it is. So I'll have to work out a system with that, I think, because I think I can use that to my benefit more in the future. So we're going to mix up the epoxy. And if you've been here before, you know the drill, but if not, so I'm going to be using this PPG EPO G55 epoxy. 4 parts of this to 1 part of the hardener. Just using normal hardener. Normal because it's a normal day. Fast if it was cold weather. Slow if it was stinking hot. And I'll be using about 20% of universal reducer to get it to flow out. Have my cups ready. I'll be using the 4:1 ratios, so I'll put 4 parts of the primer and then 1 part of the hardener and then 20% of the reducer. Stir it all up, leave it in the pot for about 5-10 minutes, let it catalyse a bit, put it in the gun, and then away I go. I'm going to be running 35 psi on my gun, and I will be pumping it out. I'll be putting about 3 coats on most parts, so that'll be that. I'm going to close these doors so that overspray doesn't come in here. I'll close that door so overspray doesn't go out there. I'll move a couple of my cars out of the way. Commodore's going to get overspray on it, it is what it is. So will a couple other things in here, but otherwise we should be pretty good to go. And I've protected anything that matters. The hydraulic ram and the motor on the hoist. Let's do it. Well, I'm all suited up and sweat my head off. It's actually pretty warm today. It's always the way. Got my mask ready to go. Had the epoxy sitting there for probably 5-10 minutes. Got everything closed up. I'll close this door up. Now, I'm not putting any sort of ventilation in here. I'm only going to be in here for a short period of time, so there's only a little bit of painting. And I've closed everything so that there's no air able to move through here, and that'll hopefully just control it a little bit. I could put a vent fan out of that window if I wanted to and sort of try and extract it over there, but this is only epoxy, so I'm not worried about overspray laying on top of my work. So let's get some paint down. Done. Okay, so as I said, I only painted the bits that needed to be painted and repainted the parts that needed to be repainted, and same here. So we are ready for a bit of body filler here, This one is ready for its final sand before it goes into high build primer and then possibly paint as a wet on wet with that one. And this door, this is the one that we did all the work on. It is ready to have its fiberglassing done, and then its body filler done, sanded, and then another coat of epoxy over the top of that, and then it will be at the stage that that door's at. So the end of video one, and we've made a fair bit of progress. I'm happy to get that corner knitted up and ready to move on to the other side of the door and start taking the skin off. So we're getting close to getting some doors on this thing. Still going to be a while. I'll see you on the next video. I believe in trying to find the positive in anything. So the fact that it takes forever to edit videos means that I've had a good 20 hours or so to let this epoxy harden. Now on the technical data sheet, the TDS, which I just searched online, which I've used all the time, but just so you know where to find them, it says 16 hours to hard. I can't remember what it said to touch dry, a couple of hours or something, but 16 hours to hard. So what that means is that I can now start sanding this and start applying my fiberglass and my body filler. I could probably get away without the fiberglass since I've got such a beautiful coating of epoxy in that weld, but I'm going to do it anyway, particularly on these edges here. I want to make sure that moisture can't get in there. But doesn't everything look better with a coat of epoxy? Rightio, so to work. It's overcast, but it's muggy, so my fan's going in the background, so hopefully it's not too distracting or noisy for you. So I've got my DA, dual action sander here, and I've got a soft interface pad on it. Don't really need it, but I've got it there. The reason being is that I don't want to take off too much of the epoxy. I just want to get into the areas where I'm going to be actually doing the work at the moment. I'm going to be using an 80 grit paper, just dry, and I just want to rough it up, and I'll do pretty much the whole area so that it's got tooth key across the whole thing, because no doubt I'll end up with some body filler from top to bottom right the way across, because as you know, it's got some hollows, I've got to fill some things like this and so on. So I'll prepare for the fact that everything will need some body filler, even if I don't need to put it on there. I've got some fiberglass here, so this one here, I haven't specifically used that one before. I've used that, which it's got very long strands of fibre in it, so I'm hoping this one's got shorter fibres in it. We'll see. So it's a new one for me. Basically all it says as far as preparation is it's got to be spotlessly clean, all that sort of stuff, but it's got to be a rough texture. It doesn't actually specify a grit on the can, but I'll look at the TDS, but I think 80 grit should be fine. It should give plenty of bite for it to grab into. So I'm going to give that a buzz up. I'll do most of it by DA, but I have got paper here if I need to, just to get into some spots, but I'll avoid that as much as possible. So I guess without any further ado, let's take the shine off this and make it rough. Okay, well that's open to interpretation. It says thoroughly clean it and make it rough. I'll make it rough. I got a rough head, know what rough looks like. Let's do it. Very quickly sand it up. I have bare metaled on some of the welds and a little bit on some edges, but I'm not concerned, particularly on the welds, because that's where the fiberglass is going. Fiberglass is waterproof. I build boats out of it, and that's the idea of it. And it's also strong. So a little bit of bare metal there, not worried. I'm building that up. It'll be strong on the edge of the door. I'm building this little bit up, same reason, and through here. Now, if you look very carefully, very, very carefully, and I mean very carefully, that's what we're trying to fill in, pinholes. So any one of those will let moisture in and we will have issues. So I can see 4 or 5 just like this. Yep. So that's what I'm trying to fill. As minor as it seems. And you've got to remember, I wasn't able to put any seam sealer on the back of this, because once the panel was welded I didn't have access. So it's the only part that hasn't got seam sealer. So luckily it's not at the bottom of the door, so moisture might run down the side, but all I can try and do is seal it from the outside as best I can. Now, there is a cavity on the inside, so I might spray some cavity wax around in there later, like far later, and try and aim at that seam. So there is that. Okay, opening the tin, the stuff looks like the strands are far finer than that stuff over there, so that's a good thing. But it's very thick. So what I like to do is thin it down. So this contains styrene. So, Fiberglass resin. Is that the same brand? Thought it was the same brand, but it's not. It doesn't matter. Fiberglass resin. This is just straight styrene. It's not straight, but it's styrene. So I'm going to thin that down with that and make that far runnier. It'll help me to work into those pinholes better. How much, you may ask? As much as I want. So once I'm happy with it. Couple of things before I start mixing anything. So I'm literally just going to tip it out of the tin, put it there. I'll get it all into one glug. Nothing will start setting just yet. This is a 50-to-1, so generally you just put a line across the pile once it's a nice neat pile. That's of the hardener, I should say. And with your hardener, always knead it before you open it, because often it separates. So just go through and just sort of knead the thinner stuff, whatever it is, the liquid, in with the hardener, just like that. That is just something you should always do with your hardener. I will be mixing it just with a plastic applicator, but I like applying it with a metal applicator. And I just keep some thinners close by, because once this starts going off, which it's got about, generally about 5 minutes, maybe a little bit longer working time, similar to body filler, maybe a couple of minutes more working time. It's not exactly the same as working with body filler if you use that, but similar. So I just give everything a clean up with thinners. So once it starts going off, you can tell once the product starts going off, it sort of goes firm. You can't really put it on anymore, and you're actually wasting your effort if you try to keep using it after it's gone off. So don't mix up more than you need. That'll be ample for me at the moment. And then I just wipe it down with a cloth. So I guess I'll do it. I got exactly 5 minutes out of that. So I didn't finesse it too much, I didn't fluff around with it too much. It started drying here and I started dragging a bit. But my most important part is here, down along the weld. On the corner, it was sort of oozing over. As long as I get good contact on there to make it stick, so I don't want it just sort of sitting there, I've got to sort of force it in a bit. So I've got it on this area also. I think I've still got a pinhole there, so I may go through and just put another really gentle smear on this after. I'm going to go through and sand this down a little bit later, so I'll probably only leave it for 10 or 15 minutes. It's actually just tacky, but too early to sand. People with body filler as well make the mistake of putting this stuff on and walking away from it, leaving it for a long period of time. With body filler, get stuck in there, mate. With body filler, I pretty much start sanding it about 15 minutes after I've put it on. It doesn't hurt it, it makes it easier to sand, and then you can put the next coat on as you need to. There's always more than one. I didn't point out before, this stuff's called onion board, and it is literally for the purpose of what I'm doing. So this here, tear the sheet off, put it in the bin. Why use this? It's for mixing of filler pastes and materials specially. Formulated paper avoids soaking up resins and solvents. You don't get contaminants in your body filler. This is clean paper for this purpose. Only a couple of minutes later, it's slightly tacky, but if it doesn't clog my paper, then it's right to go. Using 80 grit, just trying to take as much of the roughness off as I can. The earlier I can get to this while it's still soft, the less elbow grease is going to be involved. Now I'm doing this by hand rather than with my DA, just because I don't want to go burning through the epoxy. So I'll do this. I'll probably jump on the DA at some point. So I wanted to even this corner up, so we went from here to here. You can see there I still need a little bit through this area. It'll be strong. It's not just body filler, which is basically hardened talcum powder. It's got fiberglass resin in it, which makes it strong. So I can go straight over the top of this with my body filler. If it's still tacky, you can, with most, I won't say all, with most you can go over the top of it with your body filler without sanding it. So while it's there, put your next coat on. But I'm sanding this down because I want to try and check out the planes as best I can. I'm not trying to finesse my body shapes here at the moment. I'm, again, just trying to seal up those welds. Very pleased I did this all under that trim. It makes it that much easier for me. I'll keep sanding. First coat sanded off, going to put more on. So you can see there's some hollow spots here, and I showed you a bit of a dip in there. So I'm going to fill this out through here. I could use body filler there, but if I've got enough fiberglass, I'll just put a bit more on here as well. As we know, this is a bit hollow through here anyway. You can see where I've hit the metal here. There's no point me sanding any further once I hit the metal. Basically, if I've hit metal there and metal there, then this is a slight low spot. Same with these welds. So I knew right the way along that I was going to be building up along the weld right the way along. Don't have to do it all with fiberglass because I can finish it and will finish it off with body filler. This edge here, it's coming up all right. I'll just extend it down a little bit more. It's really solid. There was a sunken bit here, and you can see that when I've sanded it. And when I've sanded it, I've tried to choose this line and doing the crosshatch fashion like this, so that I'm not just sanding wavy lines into it. But let's not forget, there's got to be a big fat trim that runs through here, and most of the good stuff, so to speak, is below that. So I'm not really worried. This area here, they're the parts, and this area here, they're the parts that need some work, and they're the visible parts. Everything else is not visible, but it'll look just fine. So I'll mix up a bit more fiberglass, mainly for this edge and for this edge, and what I've got left over, I'll put some there and I'll lose some there. This is the third lot. I didn't bother filming the second lot. Each load has got smaller as I've gone along. And the main thing was I was just trying to build this corner up little by little. Now, if you have a look at that, it's all oozing over, and it looks like the door's about 1/4 of an inch thick. That's because it's all built up on the back, and I'm not worrying about that. I'll take that off when I get to the back. It's the front I'm concentrating on. Now, this is tacky enough that I can leave a fingerprint in it, but all I'm going to do, this is again 80 grit, I'm just going to shave the shape now. Why? Because it's easier to do it when it's soft, not clogging the paper. It's easier to do it when it's soft than it is when it's hard. And if I do it when it's soft rather than when it's hard, then I've got more control over it and it's less work. So, same here. I'm just working on that plane first, just to shave it, and I know that I'm going to touch metal in this corner and metal up the top. It's just the bit in the middle I'm trying to build, because I don't want it to roll off. That's why I've been putting more on these ends, because it was quite a rounded edge and I want a sharp edge. And again, because it's fiberglass, it's going to be nice and strong, so I'm not worried about building it with product. I'd rather build it with this product than with the next product, which is body filler. And it is not intended to do this sort of thing. So as I said, lots of ooze there. And then I'll just sand this down. I'm not even going to try and make this completely flat, because if it's got lines and grooves and things in it, that's fine. It'll be better for when I put the body filler on. Sanded that third coat up. Now as you can see, this looks good. Still got to thin it out on the other side. That's looking good. Couple of pinholes. And same over here. These were my main concentration areas. So there's a little bit of, couple of spots here and there, just pinholes and so on, that body filler will help. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to do that old thing that everyone cringes at. I'm actually going to put a fair smear of body filler across this, down here. Won't touch the top much. I'll probably put a bit up here so I can see that's a low spot. Again, the trim's there. So pretty much from here all the way across here, I'm going to put some body filler on. I'll pack it on a bit thicker here, very, very thinly through here, mainly this area, but it's got to blend out, and it'll be a bit thicker through here. And just about all of it's got to come back off again. But if I fill this bit and don't do this bit, then I'm going to have a depression there. I know what I'm like. I'm no master of body filler, and quite frankly, I don't want to be known as the master of body filler. Good luck to people that are, you know, if that's what they do. But I just want to get it right. I don't mind if it takes me 3 or 4 layers to do it, whereas I've seen people, particularly on videos and so on, that like pack it on, try and do it in one coat and then sand it all off. Really not into that. And before I do start putting any body filler down, let's just have a look. So we can see a very, very slight gap there underneath that. Now that's what we're talking about through that area. But then in these areas, we're good. We're good. Up towards the end here, there will be a low. Yep, so there's a low where my thumb is. It's a little bit wavy in some spots. And the same up here. So, as I said, I'm going to put it on. I'll concentrate on some areas more than others, but I'm going to put it all on. I'll put some tape here, not necessarily to work to, it's just to remind me not to get too far carried away and keep going, because I really don't need to. So I can body fill, you know, sort of right up to, nearly up to that tape, but I don't have to get up to it, except for these areas here. I do want to get up to there. I'm on fire. Okay, so what have I done? You've been watching. I think that's 3 applications of body filler. So you can see the spots. There's a bit here, there's a bit there, there's a bit here, a little bit up here, a little bit there, maybe a patch there, a bit in through here, and a tiny little bit there. This is where the trim is. I haven't fully sanded this back. If you can see a sharp edge, there's definitely going to be a sharp edge. If it's a really feathery sort of an edge, then that's what you're after. So I've been sanding this back with 36 grit on my speed file. So it's really coarse, it chews it off. If I was a panel beater, I would have a cheese grater, which is even more aggressive. It just gets that surface off. Now, the idea is that after this, I'll go through and sand it down with 80 grit. But after I've got all my levels good, and then it'll be ready for primer and so on back over it, because I like to apply my epoxy primer to 80 grit. And if I'm applying high build primer, then it's to 240 grit. But I'm going straight to epoxy after this. If I was going to the high build, I'd be going down to 240 grit. So the 36 just takes it off. Now, if you've been watching, you may have been noticed how smoothly that body filler goes on. The reason being is that this is a trick I learnt off YouTube, off a couple of different sites. One is a really well-known person that gets criticised all the time, and another is a really, really high-quality shop that I haven't seen any criticism of. Basically, I do the same as I did with my fiberglass. This is styrene based. I put some styrene in it. What I did to that tin was, when I got that tin, I put half of this tin in it straight away. That's really what it came down. No measure, I just put half of it in there and stirred it around before I'd ever used it. And now, whenever I want to make like a glazing putty or get it to flow a bit more, I just add more. It doesn't hurt it. And it really flows on nicely. So it spreads out beautifully. So that's my trick that I learnt from others, and it works. Just another piece of advice, don't go setting your camera up after you have already added the hardener to your body filler. You lose a minute or two. Moved on to the back, got it all sanded in 80 grit so that I can put the fiberglass on, and I've put the first layer of glass on there. And I've started sanding back these other bits, but that's just in preparation for when we move along to the next stage. So I just got to get something around here. Some of the spots where there was a bit of surface pitting as well, I'm going to be just putting in. There's a bit of a dent in there. I couldn't bang it out at the time, so I'm just going to fill it. And same up through here. So just the same thing, covering all those welds, anywhere that I think could possibly get moisture into. So I'll just ooze this around with my finger through here, neaten up a bit there and over here. Ready for some body filler. Everything that needed to be covered is covered. Certainly not smooth. Bottom of a door. It'll be good enough to put some body filler on and move along. We're not far from having this done. Super good. Man, this is sweaty work. I wish I could just allow myself to be a bit half measured sometimes. Anyway, I've got one more coat of the body filler, and the main reason is that as it was going off, a little lump got caught in it as I was doing the final drag and went through there, and if I'd gone back and tried to correct that, I would have just messed the rest of it up. So for some reason I got a little hole there. I'm going to put the ever so slightest little skim over that, try not to spread it out anywhere else, and that's it. Sand that off and then I'm done. I'll put some epoxy on it, and after the epoxy we'll put some seam sealer around here, and then we'll put it into high build and all that sort of stuff. Get out any of the little pinholes in the fibre. No, actually, so I'm going to do a little bit there as well, and a little bit there, just a smear. So a little smear. 5 hours later. Nearly there. I think I've said that before. Well, it's a dirty job, but someone's got to do it. That's all finished, except for that bit there. But I don't even care. That's not true. I care a lot. Ready for the next stage. Well, I believe the saying goes, it's not a dumb idea if it works. So I'm going to run with that. Again, if you've got a toothpaste twice, use it for everything you can. So the reason I've got it like this is I only need to paint the bottom of it and a couple of patches just on a few spots. I don't need to paint anything on the top of it, the glass. I've got it all masked up really nicely, and I'm ready to start putting some epoxy down on this. So I might throw a couple of drop sheets on a couple of things, but other than that, we're ready to go. I'll show you at the end. 3 good coats later, I ended up painting all of it because I had some paint left in the gun and I'd already sanded it and prepped it, so why not? Got all the roosters crowing out there. So when you put your epoxy on, it shows up the imperfections and so on, and that's okay. This will be sanded down to a certain extent, and then it'll have high build primer and then paint on it, so some of those imperfections will disappear anyway. There is a line through there that I can see, and just there, but once again, I'm not in the slightest bit concerned because that's where the trim's going. That'll come up just fine. So I'm going on a road trip now. So I'll be away for a few days, so that should harden up nicely. Well, I have been on to some other things lately, so it's actually over a week since I've been on this. But Sam jumped in and started doing some sanding on it with some 240. So using the various different profiles for different various profiles of the doors. So again, this is the roll and loop paper, and just using whichever block is most appropriate for whichever area we're working on, and ensuring that we're sanding in a cross fashion. I'm not going to go into that too much, but what I do want to show you is, hopefully the light picks it up, any of those little shiny spots, and it's very hard, there we go, we're just there, any of those little shiny spots, if it's still shiny, it means that it's lower than what's around it. So I'm going to keep sanding through the epoxy until I get rid of those. Now, I do need to be cautious, I don't want to get any bare metal again. So you can see I'm down to the paint here, so that's a warning sign that, hey, back off a bit. And obviously some areas here. So I'll sand that. Got both sides of this door sanded up, and that's all down to 240. Some of the more difficult areas I actually used the equivalent to a 600 Scotch-Brite just to get into some difficult areas. There are a couple of sand throughs, which is always inevitable and it's always annoying. I've got some spot 1K primer that I'll do those in, which I prefer not to, but it's fine. What I'm about to do at the moment is run some seam sealer along those seams. I'll blow all the dust out, give it a wipe down, and seam seal in around there to stop the ingress of water and to prevent future rust. Along the bottom here, it's amazing. Look good in body filler. There's a couple of pinholes. I'm not worried about it. There will be more primer go over this. That has epoxy on it, so it's not going to allow moisture into it. But you think you get it all smooth, and there's still some spots. Couple of air bubbles sanded through, so I don't know. If I was a better person, I'd go through and sand that and put some more body filler there and go through the whole process again. Sorry Sam, not going to happen. Got to be high build primer. High build primer is essentially liquid body filler anyway, so I'll just make sure that I get a bit on there. Probably a bit bigger than I'm supposed to do with that, but bottom of the door I think will live. Seam sealer. I've just run a quick mask around for the seam sealer. It's not like paint quality masking job, it's just literally so that when I put the seam sealer on, it gives a neat edge, not necessarily a perfect edge, just a neat edge. So I'll make sure that I get the seam sealer up to the mask very, very thinly and just sort of bring it towards the steel. There's a couple of areas here that's got a bit of body filler in it, or weld, or whatever it is. But so these areas, I'll close those seams up completely. There is original seam sealer still remaining in a couple of spots here and here. I'll just go over the top of that. And I'm not going to do up the top of the door here because all the existing seam sealer is still there. There's no point going over it again because I haven't worked up there. So I'm going to use the black stuff, the 227, Sikaflex 227. Yeah, 227. I'll just put a thin bead on and then wipe it with my finger with gloves. Got that on there. I didn't mask the outside here, but I did do down here before I got to it because I realised that I am really messy with this stuff. I can manage to get this stuff in places where I didn't know existed without even opening the tube. So word of warning, if you think you're going to do that, then protect it. I put a little bit too much on here, and a little bit means a lot when you're smearing it out, so it sort of oozes over the masking tape and so on. I can, before it skins, which doesn't take very long, it takes maybe, depending on the weather, maybe 15, 20, 30 minutes, depending on the weather, it moisture cures, so moisture in the air will help it cure. It's very humid here today, which it seems to always be, so that'll help it go off. So before it skins, you can go over it with a solvent, like thinners or something like that, and give it a wipe off, which I did in some spots, but in other areas like this here, I'll just carefully remove it with a razor blade, and you can sand it, so that is the good thing with this, it is sandable. Now this is good for things like this. You would never use this in like the face of a panel or somewhere really obvious, because it does shrink. So it has about 5% shrinkage. So that generally does open up very small hairline cracks. But it's sort of one of the things that you get with it. You're trying to stop moisture getting into the panel. Pretty much it's got to remain flexible. It's got to be watertight. It does take out vibration and dust ingress a little bit as well, so it can help with noise prevention, generally by the rattling. But because of that, it's got to remain flexible, and that flexibility will mean that the paint will crack to a certain extent. So just bear that in mind. So in an area like this, the seam of a door, if it cracks, I don't think I'm going to care, and no one else will care, because you look at the seam of any door and you're going to see a hairline crack around there. Unless the car is never driven, because it goes to car shows. Okay, I'm going to let that skin a little bit more, then I'll remove the tape. This has a low stringiness to it, so some stuff is really like spaghetti. This stuff still does have some stringiness, and it is, as I said, I can be really messy with it. But I'm going to let it skin a bit more, and then I'll peel the tape off, and then I'm going to let it go, and then I'm going to do some work on this door. What I'm aiming to get done here is to get this done so that I can paint over it. Essentially, according to the manufacturer's instructions, as soon as this gets a skin on it, you can start painting over it. I don't know, I'm no expert on it, but I'm going to leave it for longer than that. I just think that potentially will cause problems. So by the time I've finished doing that door, it's got to be tomorrow at least. So, and I've got to still seam seal that. Actually, that one might have been done when we did it. So yeah, I'm going to prime over the top of this later, and then we're going to paint it and all that sort of stuff. So this is that step. We're getting one step closer. I'm listening to a bunch of Australian classic pub songs today, and the Baby Animals just came on, and I'd forgotten what a great band they are. Okay, so this here, it's only like 10 minutes after I put it on. That's tacky. I can definitely feel it. My finger wants to stick to it, but it's not even leaving a fingerprint there. This part was the first part I did, and then this. So that is still probably minutes away. So I just carefully peeled it away in the first place with a razor blade, just to see. I've done a little bit now. I'm just going to pull my tape away like this to try and cut a bit of an edge on it. You can see the bits where it's left behind. So you can see it's leaving a nice clean edge. Oh, you can't see it. You can see it's leaving a nice clean edge there. So I can go through. I will sand back the part off this folded seam. I really only want it down there, but at the end of the day, if I sand it and it comes up neatly, then that's all I'm really after. Taking the tape off that, and in some areas I've just given it a light sand. So this was the first side I did. As I showed you before, it was a bit of a mess. It's a bit hard to show on the video, but it's actually quite smooth. So that's pretty good. And the other areas I just cleaned off with a bit of thinners. And through there, that's looking okay. I did peel it a little bit early, right on this corner here, and it did sort of lift up a little bit, not off the metal, just there was excess there. So I'll go through in a little while and just cut it off with a Stanley knife, but once again, it'll be just fine. So I got that. These bare metal bits, the primer, I had to look up the technical data sheet. The primer that I'm going to be using, primer filler, it says it's fine for small bare metal spots, so sand through. So I've got no concerns about that. I just need to get it into it pretty soon. What I'm doing is I'm just doing a little bit more on this door. This is the first door that we did ages ago. I'm pretty sure we've already done seam sealer underneath, but I'll check that when I flip it over. But I'm just going to take these clips off. It might seem a bit average, but not taking these off, mind you, we probably will take that one out because it's about to fall out. The reason being is that it's just another thing to put back in, and it was never meant to blow out this far on this. I am going to take that little clip off though. But these are double-sided taped on there. I just can't leave them there. I've got to take them off because it'll be a couple of pieces of double-sided tape. When I took them off this door, they were super tight on there. Seriously, I think whoever came up with the 3M tape for that was on the NASA team that was trying to stop the tiles fall off the space shuttle, because this stuff is strong. So what I'm going to do is get a piece of MIG wire and just saw it off. So let's show you that. Now there's nothing magical about this, it's just not a bad way of getting it off, and then the residue that's there, it actually sands off okay. So trying to pull those off, I didn't have a chance. Whereas doing that, they saw off. That looked easy, I can tell you. The other door was a little bit harder than that, and there was no way in the world I was going to be able to peel them off. Now this here, I'll scratch off with a razor blade or something. This is the remaining double-sided tape. I imagine that a paint shop put this stuff on. Actually, that's different tape to the other door. The other door was one piece, this is two piece. This side did seem a bit easier to come off, but the method is still fine. So hopefully this will come off a bit easier than the other side. But razor blade, sand, scrape, thinners. That was the trick. Well, other than needing to be masked up a little bit, these are ready to go. So remember when I was painting the doors in the epoxy primer, I hung them from the hoist and I said I needed to make up something? Well, I'm making up something. So I'm making a thing. So what I'm doing, I just got a piece of pipe, not making it overcomplicated. Got those made up. And this one's even nearly square, but not right, not completely, but it does the trick. So all I did, I initially welded some nails to the base of it, just to pack it out a bit, stop it wobbling, and then I decided, hey, a bead of weld will do the same job, so I put that on there and ground it, and we're good. Now I was going to weld this bar to the top, but I wasn't really keen on that idea, and the reason being it limits it. I can't shorten it or lengthen it. So what I've decided to do, I'm going to get this piece of square, which I think is 40mm, and that pipe fits into it. So I'm going to weld it in shorter lengths to the top of that, and then I can just sit that bar in it and adjust it, take it out, store it easily, and I can still use that bar for something else on it. Okay, proof of concept's good. So all I did was slide it in one side, then I sort of held this up in the air, slid it on, dropped it down. So what it means is that if I need to extend the arm out for some reason, then or shorten it or point them in, then it just changes all the potential with it. I can do from, I guess, one to there or across diagonally, whatever. Depends on the panels. This should be high enough. Those doors are pretty big. They're 1.2 metres or 4 foot from top to bottom, and this is about a bit over a foot, so it's 370mm or something, because that's what I had. So what it'll do, it'll give me a couple of feet, maybe 600 or 700mm off the ground, which means I'll be able to get to the bottom of it to paint it. That's all I was after. And then I can do bigger panels, bonnets and things like that, so should be good. I've already got some ideas for some additions, some extensions and so on to this. This pipe is not a real thick wall, it's only a couple of mil, so it may bend a little bit underweight, and those doors are really heavy. If it does that, all I really need to do is get a piece of angle iron and sit it on top of it, and just sitting it there should be enough. Hold it on with duct tape or something so that I can just take it off and use it for something else. But if I decide it's a long-term thing, I can weld it on there. I've even thought I could weld some hooks on it if I wanted to, some bits of chain maybe, just so I can tie things to it, so chain links, which I'll probably end up doing so things don't slide and so on. But I think the idea will work fine. So I'll weld this up. This was interesting. There was an M, an underlined M stamped into the pipe. I think that's what it is. Okay, so I'll weld that up, and then that's pretty darn good, I reckon. Well, I reckon that was worth doing. So it's all there. What I've done, I've put this pipe on it, because as I said, it had a bit of flex in it. And also what I think I'm going to do, so just by putting this here, it takes a lot of the flex out. But I can put a thicker wall pipe, I can put a square section, whatever I want. But what I'm actually thinking, I'm not going to do it at the moment, I'm probably going to make some sleeves up, so maybe just, say, 100mm long or something, with a hook on them. And then what I can do, if I have a bunch of those, I can have them here, so if something's in the way, if I need to move it across, then I can literally just slide it across and sort of stack them as I paint them across to the side, because I can see me using this for lots of small pieces as well. I made it for the doors mainly in the first place, but I can see me hanging lots of small pieces off wire at different lengths. So you might be overthinking it, but if I just want to slide them across, then I can do that. So why is that on this video? Because I needed to make something, or I felt I needed to make something to hang those doors from so I can paint them. So it's done. Now I can hang those doors. So I've moved my doors over. I moved my doors over, and the intention is I'm going to sling around here and around here with some rope, ratchet straps or something like that, and then hang them off this. But as soon as I did it, I realised they were going to be so close to each other that I wouldn't be able to get into them. So I've decided I'm going to hang them, I think it's perpendicular, so at a 90-degree angle. So I'm essentially making a coat hanger. So what I'm going to do is I'll have it so that it's just tacked at the moment, but I'll have it so that it can slide backwards and forwards, and I'll put a series of holes in here. I'm not sure how many, maybe 3 or 4 on either side, and I think I'll use D shackles, like trailer shackles, and have those there so I can just hook onto that. Maybe I could even do the holes, but whatever, because I'm thinking of using a piece of chain here, and that way, because the door may weigh more. Oh look, my chickens are come to visit. Because the door may weigh more on one side than the other, then I can adjust its hanging centre, I guess, so that I can get it right. So I'm pretty happy with that, so I'll weld that up. I have that coat hanger with the holes in it now, put 1/2-inch holes in it, so 12.5mm, so that'll allow me to put hooks and things through. So as I said, I can slide it across. So what I have, I've just put these ratchet straps on the door at the moment. I end up just putting 3 holes on either side, about 100mm apart, 4 inches apart, and that way I can sort of play around. I imagine I'll put one sort of right up the end here and probably one less near the end to accommodate the fact that there's door hanging over. But I can adjust it. So it's all just prototype at the moment, and ultimately I see particular methods of attaching here. So as I said, with shackles or bits of chain or hooks or a combination of these things. And I'd like to have some things that are just easy to wrap around there that I have, preset, so it just takes a couple of minutes to set the whole thing up. Cool. A little bit of fine tuning just with the hanging system. You can see how I have got this here to balance the weight out a bit. I moved it across. I think I'll put additional holes in. I think I'll put holes in between as well, so every 50mm, and maybe right the way across here, so maybe have 5 holes on each side. And while this works fine, I'll change that. I think I'd like something that's just that little bit simpler to do. But I think that will work fine. I can slide it along. I was concerned about the bar moving with the weight, and it does want to move, so all I'll do, I'll just drill a hole down through it and drop a pin down on either end, then it won't be able to move. So that's easy. And then I can move this across. So obviously, just as long as nothing's coated in dust, I can move it across and I shouldn't have any dramas. So I don't want dust falling on everything once it's painted. So I'm happy with that. I think that's a win. So now I'm aware that you can buy stands, you can make stands, and I'm going to do that almost like an old swing set, that sort of thing. And I used to have something like that, but not anymore, for little parts. But I just like the idea of being able to raise it, lower it with the hoist off my off my panel stands, and so on. So the reason I'm showing you this is that if you do a bit of painting, then if you make something up, whether it's with a hoist or something else, just by using some offcuts and scrap metal, crap metal, then you can just make something that becomes a handy addition to the workshop. And then you can paint the doors, which is the part that you're probably hoping to see. I think that one will be better. Number 2. So it's got 6 holes on either side. Really easy to use in every way. So to put that on, because there's such good leverage on this, even with the door on there, I was able to lift it up quite easily. So I probably will paint these yellow. They'll probably get covered in paint anyway, but I actually was gifted a whole heap of paint recently, and there was some primer and some yellow in aerosol cans, so since I've got a habit of smashing my head on things, I'm going to paint those yellow. That way I can bash my head on something that's yellow. Next step, door up, we'll get into the paint. Okay, this will be the last bit about this particular thing, I promise. So the bend is pretty obvious. I don't think it's going to fail, but I'm definitely going to do something about it next time. I'm happy with it now, but yeah, this is working very well. So that coat hanger system, and as I said, it'll be really useful for a bunch of different things. That's enough. Beautiful, tidy, clean, dust-free workshop. Gave it all a sweep and then a hose. And these have been wax and grease removed and then cleaned with glass cleaner as well. I like to do that because wax and grease remover gets wax and grease off, fingerprints and things. Glass cleaner just gets dirtiness off generally. So I don't know. Might be the right thing to do, might be the wrong thing to do. I have never had an issue with doing it, so I continue to do it. So I can think of about 150 things that I'd prefer to be doing than painting today, because it's really humid, really hot, and I'm really not feeling it. But there's meant to be thunderstorms and rain for the next few days, so I'm going to do it. Sound enthusiastic? I'm going to do it. Okay. Let's do this. I'm going to do this. Well, I really don't mind telling you I'm stinking hot, and I've just taken my mask off and I was just dripping sweat out. I'm glad I'm not painting over the top of anything. What you can possibly hear, my very professional extraction system there. So just drawing whatever it can across there. Got the window open. I closed this one. It's far from perfect. But I've got 2 coats of primer, high build primer on the outside of the doors and one on the inside. Why? Because I don't care about the inside as much as the outside. Seems okay. Probably turn the light on in a minute. Seems okay. It's as good as it's going to get. I have the blue paint mixed up, ready to go. I'll probably need to mix more, but I didn't want to leave it sitting too long. I think the finish on this is coming up okay. There's certainly imperfections in it, but I knew that would be the case, but it's laid down nice and flat, so hopefully that's a good base for the top coat to go down. I can see little bumps and things here and there, but yeah, it's 1,000,000% better than what it was. So as the sweat runs down my arm out of my glove, I'm going to turn this off and throw the first coat of blue paint down. When you see me, I'll probably will have finished. Okay, once again I look like a pirate. That's because I'm boiling and that's a wet bandana. So I'll turn my extraction fan off. Okay, I managed. So, yep, painted the floor. I don't mind at all. Most of it will sweep off, and what doesn't will help seal up the concrete a bit. But more importantly, painted the doors. So you can see the truck in the background there. If you squint, you'll be able to see those doors on that truck. I actually haven't looked at it yet. Yeah, it's got a little bit of orange peel. That's about my level of painting ability. And it's got about the same amount of orange peel as the truck, I think, which is an acceptable amount to me. And I guess if we needed to, we could sand it out. But I can't see any runs. That's always a win. As I've said before, I'm really good at painting runs into things. You can probably hear my boots sticking to the floor. It's particularly sticky. So I'm going to take the masking off this. There's a little bit of stuff in it just there. How wet are we? A little bit tacky. Probably 40 minutes after I painted it, I guess. Just trying to get that thing out. I'll leave it for the moment. So I've done all my wash up and everything. So I'm happy with that. So let's have a look. Still got to do the white, remember? And the white will look very disappointing against the blue. That's the white up here. I think we still haven't decided whether we're going to leave the truck solid or whether we're going to put the white back. It's definitely going to have the trim on it. And the reason being is that I haven't filled any of the holes, not intentionally. So it's going to have the top and bottom trim. They'll be polished up and all the rest of it. They've got wood grain bits in it. Just sort of going for a bit of a as it was kind of theme. But it was originally white between those. So basically this and the cab no longer has any white panel through there, through this area. It only sort of went a little bit around the back before anyway. But the roof is still white and the tops of the doors will be. Both need painting, which you may have seen in previous videos. Still got to paint the guards, bonnet. Bonnet's massive. It's the size of Arizona, Texas, I don't know, a big state. Guards, bonnet, and we got to go through and just prep this. It's been rust repaired. Got to prep that and then we'll paint the plenum and all that. And I need to paint the cowl as well. It wasn't quite ready. I wanted to paint it today, but wasn't quite ready. And of course there's always the tub, but the tub is a whole project on its own because it's big and it's got a fair bit going on. So if that was any sign, any hint as to what to expect, as in this door just here, then the tub is going to be a big project. So we'll see. Okay, well I've cooled down marginally now. So got those unmasked. It's still tacky. That's when I like to unmask, when it's still tacky, but it's sort of a borderline thing. There was a little bit of sanding dust and so on that fell down, but I know that that will come off. So it was tacky enough that it felt tacky, but dry enough that stuff isn't going to stick to it. So I like to take it off now so that I can peel my tape off without pulling the paint back or anything like that. So these locks, they'd been painted previously by previous people. We aren't going to paint them blue. I'll probably paint them silver or something like that. Normally I'd pull all that gear off and do it that way, but we're just trying to just wind back a little bit, just how far we go. So that was the door that we did all those rust repairs on in part 1 and part 2 of this video. That one was one from ages ago. Certainly not perfect, but gee, it's a lot better. It'll look so much better on the car. So I'm impressed. Makes the top look just horrible. All the chrome, it's a bit tarnished. We might be able to polish that up. Even the door handles are tarnished. And the white paint, obviously. But it's amazing what polish and window cleaner will do in the first place. But hopefully we'll get onto that white sooner rather than later, but we'll see. I did also throw a bit of paint on the back of the cowl. I just emptied my gun there, and it was so close that I basically didn't even manage to paint the back of the cowl. There's still a little bit of body work to do to the front of that, so I figured I'd get the underside done. Well, didn't even get that done. So I'm going to leave this video here. So this has been number 3 out of a 3-part series on fixing those doors, and we sort of had a segue to making my coat hanger system along the way. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Hopefully you got something out of it. If nothing else, you get to watch me work and just sit there and drink your coffee or your brewski, whatever you're doing. So go and pick up an angle grinder, a spray gun, I don't care what it is. Go and do something on your project. You're not going to get it done sitting there watching me. I'll catch you on the next one, but until then, you stay real safe, okay? While I've got the chance, I just wanted to give you a little bit of a catch up as well about the channel. So at the moment, it's about the 3rd of February or something. This video will come out in a couple of weeks. So I'm a little bit in front at the moment, which is good. It doesn't always work that way. But as of this moment, I think I've got 1,120 subscribers, which is awesome. In the beginning of January, I hit that 1,000 mark, or maybe the very late December, I hit the 1,000 subscribers mark. So 1,120, I'm thrilled with that. It's it's a huge achievement to me. And I also in January started getting monetized, which means I can make some money out of YouTube. So what that means is that when you watch the videos, when thousands of people watch the videos, I get some money. If you want to know what sort of money, well, about 1,000, 1,100 subscribers maybe somewhere between 400 or maybe 300 and 2,000 views on a video. In January I made 60 bucks. I'm going to go and buy a new car. But while it's not much, I can build on that. But more importantly, that was the goal. I wanted to see that I could make some money on YouTube, and I did it. The first day, $1.62, I think it was. That was like just so exciting for me. That's thanks to you guys. You watch my videos, and because you watch my videos, I've reached that bucket list thing of making money out of YouTube. I'm not going to become a millionaire from YouTube, but just making $1 was pretty thrilling to me. I'm going to keep it though. I'm going to keep trying to make $1.